Okay, well, welcome to the December 2nd meeting of the Town of Kennebunkport Planning Board. I'm Tom Boak, the chairman. There's ways to get here, either by Zoom, as us guys are on, or you can actually still watch it on whatever channel number it is on cable or at the YouTube Kennebunkport page. Anyway, if you are on one of those ways and you need to talk to us on Zoom, the Zoom webinar number is 985-1037-2142. And let me, I guess, proceed with attendance. It looks like we've got a full house. At least I see eight faces, including Werner, so that's 7 people. So we're all here. Hail, hail. Okay, so I need first the approval of the minutes. I guess Larry sent a slight modification.
Yep.
And you sent that to Trish also?
I did, yes.
Okay. So you'd like to move approval of the minutes as amended by Larry?
So I moved approved as modified.
I have a question about the modification. I don't have it with me, but you had written instead of 30%, 130%. Did you correct that?
No. Okay, here's what the original minutes say. Mr. Eisenstedler stated he was hoping to use 30% expansion on the shed for the new dormer. Mr. Gilliam responded that the applicant could use 1.3% of the shed since the shed has not been expanded previously. Obviously, that should either be 1.3 times or 130%. So I just made it 130. It's just a typo, basically.
Okay. And I will second the motion.
Okay. Good. So I'm in favor of approval. Nina?
In favor.
Scott?
In favor.
Ed?
In favor.
Larry?
In favor?
Okay. Well, that brings us to item 1 and 2 that are being delayed till the next time. To item 3, 201093, Tailor-Made Hospitality DBA Hurricane Restaurant. This is a finding of facts reading by my friend George. So George, why don't you proceed and read your finding of facts.
Be delighted. Kennebunkport Planning Board, findings of fact and decision, Tailor-Made Hospitality, doing business as Hurricane Restaurant, Woodman, Edmund, Standing Lake, Austin, Smith, and Jake's PA authorized agents, 29 Dock Square, Kennebunkport, to add service to and reconstruct existing deck, adding ramps, stools, tables, and railings. Findings of fact. Following a site plan pursuant to the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance held 4 November 2020 and a public hearing on 18 November 2020, the Kennebunkport Planning Board makes the following findings and conclusions and renders the following decision subject to the conditions enumerated below. Findings of fact 1. The owner is Riverview LLC, 12 Riverlocks Road, Kennebunk, Maine, 04042, in an application dated 10/15/2020. Taylor Benenti, president of Tailor-Made Hospitality, authorized Woodman, Edmund, Standing Lake, Austin, Smith, and Jake's PA to act as the agent for this matter. 3, the property has a street address of 29 Dock Square, Kennebunkport, Maine, 04046. 4, the mailing address is 39 Lassell Street, Portland, Maine, 04102. 5, the property is located in the Dock Square zone. 6, the property consists of 8,300 square feet, more or less, and is identified as map 11, block 2, lot 1 in the municipal tax assessor's maps. 7, the owner has demonstrated a legal interest in the property by providing deed of sale recorded in the York County Registry of Deeds as book 16947, pages 160 through 162, dated December 15, 2014. 8, the applicant provided a copy of the lease dated 10 December 2018. 9, applicant provided a copy of a Maine Department of Transportation easement for construction recorded in the York County Registry of Deeds as book 17257, pages 744 through 749, dated May 18, 2016. 10,
George, did you just mute yourself?
4 stools and 2 tables. 11, the applicant proposes to expand food and beverage service to the deck and has provided minutes from the Kennebunkport Board of Selectmen dated May 28, 2020, recording approval. 12, the applicant provided a use and indemnification agreement with the town of Kennebunkport, granting permission to reconstruct and expand services to the deck. 13, the applicant has requested submission waivers from the requirements of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance regarding site plan requirements for plan scales, physical features, topography, parking improvements, water runoff, landscaping, signage. 14, the applicant has not requested any performance waivers from the requirements of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance. Guidelines for decision. Pursuant to the requirements of Article 10.10.a of the Land Use Ordinance, guidelines for decisions, the Planning Board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes a negative ruling on one or more of the following identified findings which would otherwise compel denial. A, the proposed use meets the definition or specific requirements set forth in the Land Use Ordinance and will be in compliance with applicable state or federal laws. Finding yes. B, the proposed use will not create fire safety hazards and will provide adequate access to the site or to the buildings on the site for emergency vehicles. Finding yes. C, the proposed exterior lighting will not create hazards to motorists traveling on adjacent public streets and is adequate for the safety of occupants or users of the site and will not damage the value and diminish the usability of adjacent properties. Finding yes. D, the provisions for buffers and on-site landscaping provide for adequate protection to neighboring properties from detrimental features of the development. Finding not applicable. E, the proposed use will not have a significant detrimental effect on the use and peaceful enjoyment of abutting property as a result of noise, vibrations, fumes, odor, dust, glare, or other cause. Finding yes. F, the provisions for vehicular loading and unloading and parking and for vehicular pedestrian circulation on the site and onto adjacent public streets will not create hazards to safety. Finding not applicable. G, the proposed use will not have a significant detrimental effect on the value of adjacent properties, nor have a significant detrimental effect which could be avoided by reasonable modification of the plans. Finding not applicable. H, the design of the site will not result in significant flood hazards or flood damage and is in confirmation with the applicable flood hazard protection requirements. Finding not applicable. I, adequate provision has been made for disposal of wastewater or solid waste and for the prevention of ground or surface water contamination. Finding not applicable. J, adequate provision has been made to control erosion or sedimentation. Finding not applicable. K, adequate provision has been made to handle stormwater runoff or other drainage problems on the site. Finding not applicable. L, the proposed water supply will meet the demands of the proposed use or for fire protection purposes. Finding not applicable. M, adequate provision has been made for the transportation, storage, and disposal of hazardous substances and materials as defined by state law. Finding not applicable. N, the proposed use will not have an adverse impact on significant scenic vistas or on significant wildlife habitat, nor have such an impact that could be avoided by reasonable modification of the plan. Finding not applicable. O, the proposed use will not cause unreasonable highway or public road congestion. Finding not applicable. P, existing off-site ways and traffic facilities can safely and conveniently accommodate the increased traffic generated by the development as far away from the development as the effects of the development can be traced with reasonable accuracy. Finding not applicable. Any negative finding by the board means that the application has been denied. The application is otherwise complete. Conclusions, Article 10.10.a of the Land Use Ordinance mandates that the Planning Board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes one or more identified findings that would otherwise compel denial. And as noted above, the board makes no such findings. Decision. The site plan application identified above is hereby approved. Conditions of approval, if any, pursuant to Article 10.11 and 10.12.e. 1, the applicant pursuant to 10.12.e shall notify the Planning Board prior to the transfer of rights to construct an approved project. No assignment or transfer of rights to construct an approved project is valid without prior review and approval by the Planning Board of a new performance guarantee to ensure that any assignee or transferee has the financial capacity to undertake or complete the project. 2, the applicant must record a copy of this decision and provide proof of such recordation in the form of a copy thereof attached by the Register of Deeds before any permits may be issued and before any construction activity may commence. Dated 2 December 2020, Kennebunkport Planning Board.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Yes, I'll move approval of that finding of facts.
Tom,
I'll second.
before we vote on that, I wanted to bring up to the board, I made a couple of last minute comments to George. I apologize, I only gave him those comments at 5 p.m. So there wasn't any way it was that they're in there. But one of them in particular, I feel strongly enough about, I wanted at least the board to hear and consider. We say in item 13, if I recall, that the applicant requested waivers to the land use ordinance, and findings enumerates those waivers. I worry about just leaving that hanging in there, as we certainly did not grant any waivers. I wanted to at least consider saying that we discussed that request and determined that it, if I recall, we said that the waivers weren't needed and that the application was complete. Had all the requirements met that we needed to evaluate this application. If you think it's okay the way it is, just saying they asked for a waiver and then being silent, I'm certainly not going to object, but it looked like something that a couple of years from now, someone's going to open up and say, what? The planning board can't give any waivers.
When I drafted that, I'm not disagreeing with it. When I drafted this and looking at those waivers, it's the first time I've come across where someone has requested waivers. And each one of those items are listed under the guidelines for decisions, things like water runoff and landscaping and erosion. And as I put not applicable in there, I thought that covered it, but I'm willing to yield to the board if they think otherwise.
The waivers were not doing certain items, correct?
On the site plan, not recording topography, not dealing with water runoff, because it's an existing structure.
I think there's a fine distinction between, and I think this was addressed in there, of submission, dealing with submission requirements, that ultimately lead to, the board not having to address certain sections because those sections are not applicable. Generally speaking, unless the board, unless there's somewhere in the ordinance where, there's standards that give the board discretion, or where you're given, authority to waive from a specific standard, there's not a provision in there that says you can waive certain performance standards, unless it's some type of a discretionary standard that you're dealing with. Submission requirements, as far as information that's within an application, sure. I mean, you can make the decision to say, yeah, this thing is not applicable, for this application, and so we don't need this, this type of information.
But to Ed's point, should we pull that out, not just say the requested waivers, but that the board agreed to those waivers? Should that be a statement of the findings of fact?
I'd prefer not to say we agreed to waivers, because we didn't agree to waivers.
We agreed
determined
not to need certain aspects of the submission. So is that not a submission waiver, or is that?
Well, yeah, and again, like if there's a submission, there's submitting certain information, and there's saying that there's a waiver from a performance standard, so it's two different,
Right.
You're dealing with two different things.
These weren't performance standards. These are the waiver. For instance, they didn't include topography lines on the site plan.
Yeah, so that's a submission.
That was really necessary.
That's a submission, that's a submission of information that the board deemed that they could, you can waive requiring that information because it's deemed not applicable for the application.
So that
So perhaps we should
But not a performance waiver.
reword
Right.
it somewhat and vote on it again next time.
For example, George, a performance waiver might be, say you've got, I don't know, let's just pick on parking, for example. Like if you had something very clear that says this use requires X number of parking spaces, and it was very clear that the ordinance required that, but the applicant said, well, I want a waiver from that for X, Y, and Z reason. That would be a performance standard waiver, as opposed to, an application, asking for information on an application that's just not necessary.
You
That's-
could only have a 100-foot dock, but you wanted a 150-foot dock.
Right, good example.
Right.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Okay. But these were submission waivers. So to Ed's point, which I think is a really valid point, should they not have included, even though they were in the application, should they have not been included in the findings of fact? Or if included in the findings of fact, should we have made further commentary or just had it in terms of the findings of fact?
I think you could say, after the sentence that you put in there, that the board found that the submission waivers were not applicable.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we were to agree to that comment right now, and we were to redraft it when it goes in for everyone's signature tomorrow, would that be acceptable rather than them having to wait another 2 weeks?
Would be to me. If this were an in-person meeting, we would have penned in.
We would have
Yeah.
penned it in.
Yeah.
Instead, you're gonna virtually pen it in and get it to Lisa so that she prints the right one.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Because Lisa is,
Some sort of naming convention that flags it to her.
yes.
Well, I have both of them in front of me, both copies, so if you agree to penning in something, I can pen them in right now and I can initial them. And then when you come in, you can just initial that change and sign.
I
it
make
in.
a motion that
That's
Nina,
perfect. Yeah.
That'd be great, Nina.
Yeah. Very good.
Okay. So
Okay.
I'll say that the application has requested submission waivers, blah, 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 blah. The board agreed to the waivers, to the submission waivers. How about that? Or the board found the submissions were not applicable, or do you want the board agreed with the submission
Not
waivers?
required?
They were
Not
not
required.
required. Board agreed that the
required.
waivers were not required. Okay,
all right.
all right.
It says
Next time
submission,
we'll be ready for that one.
and we'll
Forget.
initial that tomorrow when we sign.
All
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
No.
We still have to approve it.
I have to remove my
Oh.
previous, I have to amend my motion to make it a motion to approve it as Nina just wrote down the changes.
I'll second that.
Okay, so now I'm going to go through the crowd. I'm in favor, Nina,
In favor.
Scott,
In favor.
Ed,
In favor?
and Larry.
In favor.
Okay, so that brings us to Mr. Eisenstatler, if we can bring him up. And this is,
Tom, we do have Joy Nafay from Woodman Edmonds, who has had her hand up for a few minutes. I don't know if it's relevant to what you were just discussing, or...
that was what we were just discussing, so if she wishes to come in, that's fine, I guess.
Oh, she's put her hand down, so...
I mean, we just approved it, she just has to get it, get
No,
involved.
I think we addressed the issues, so I think we're good to move on there.
Sorry, who am I bringing forward now?
You're bringing John Eisenstatler, and if either of the Bergers, Timothy or Kathleen, are there, they might need to come up. This is item 201-005, Timothy and Kathleen Berger, John Eisenstatler, authorized agent, a site plan review.
I'm John Einsiedler, representing the Bergers of 6 Brook Street. And the proposal before the board is to take the square footage and volume of an existing shed, increase it by 30%, and then take that square footage and volume and bring it into the existing footprint of the house, and then remove the shed. It's the short and skinny of it.
Okay, and we've, since we last saw you, we have the, I guess, 2002, the original expansion of the property was presented to us, as well as you have some calculation summaries to indicate where the square footage came and everything. And the one thing I haven't seen, and Werner showed us a picture, found a picture from, I think, 1995 of the, of the shed being on the property. What I haven't seen is something that says it was there on January 1st, 1989. And I also haven't seen that it's actually a recognized structure by the town. When I look at the stuff in, that was provided here, the property card and everything, under appraised outbuildings, there are 0. And that is consistent throughout this, and, you know, so there is no outbuilding according to the town. What does that mean, Werner? Because I looked at other houses that have sheds, and guess what? They have a thing, outbuilding, $1,000 or something like that on them. This one does not.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, it's, you know, it's not uncommon to run across, you know, sometimes inconsistencies like this. You know, I can tell you that I found older tax cards where it looks like, you know, previously, you know, this parcel and an adjacent parcel may have been held in the same ownership that were, you know, but they were old, you know, old cottage lots. And so there was, you know, sometimes the shed, you know, there was a shed that showed up on one tax card and then it showed up on the other tax card. So there was sometimes a mix and match of where, you know, of where sheds showed up. I mean, all I could say is that I think there's, based on what I looked through, you know, I found evidence that there was a shed that was there. You know, and again, you know, as I shared with the board, we had a copy of a property appraisal done in, I think, 95 or 96 as part of an abatement application. And I think you could see the shed in the background, you know, in the background photograph of the existing house. I would say, obviously, we want our tax cards to be as accurate as possible. But, you know, the fact that it may not be on the tax card doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't there.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
you know, this is a lot like Sandy Pines, where we try to go back and ascertain whether something was there or wasn't there. A number of things were there. And I think we just have to decide to make a finding one way or another and put it into the findings of facts so we can go forward.
You know, one thing that's, I think that's a good analogy, but one thing that was different about Sandy Pines is you had the applicant come forward and assert that a certain thing was in place prior to the ordinance. And here we don't have that. The applicant has not said this shed was here prior to 1986. In fact, the applicant has said, I really don't know when the shed was put in place. So that's what's given me heartburn.
In Sandy Pines, the applicant didn't assert anything. They just came forward and said, here's what we have. And the same way that they've come forward here. And we started to question it. And then we went back and really started to look, and we had to make the findings. And, you know, I could go one way or another. I really don't care. In fact, if I had to go anyway, I would like to reduce nonconformances and get things away from water lines.
And I think we determined that this was going to improve the lot coverage as well.
Yes.
The only thing I'd like to see is the applicant come forward with an affidavit that says this shed has been in place since prior to 1986.
They can't do
Instead of the
that.
board trying to determine that for itself.
They can't do that because
I haven't heard that.
They can't make a truthful statement with an affidavit because they've already come forward and said, we don't know. So it's up to the board basically to decide, okay, are we going to assume that it was there? Nobody really knows, as you can ascertain from the tax cards and the other information that we have from the town office. And I think you just have to make a finding for yourselves, for the planning board. And then if anyone questioned it, and took it to court or something like that, then the judge would have to make a finding. But based on what we have, the information we have, we can't say it was or wasn't there. We can make an assumption and make it for the betterment of the lot, basically.
Well, and to be consistent, what we passed in the past, as you just brought it up, and we did pass it
I'm sorry, Scott?
with Sandy Hook.
Pines, yeah.
Any pine,
Sandy
yeah.
Pines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we can see on this 95, I think you said, 95, 96 picture, we can see a shed. We can't necessarily see it's the same size shed or the same shed. The only place we see the shed so far is in the drawing from the 2002, when Peterson Design Group did the first change to the place. And there's a actual drawing from that date that was provided. So we know it's old, but we don't know that it's 1989 either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get you to 96, and that's about it.
Oh, understood.
I do think, I agree with Nina. I don't, the current owner certainly can't make an affidavit to that. You had different property owners. Properties changed hands before, and I think, I think there's a fair amount of evidence that's been there for quite some time. But the same thing here. I can't say that there's 100% evidence that it was there in 1989. But like I said, I think 95 is the closest we can get.
So the question is, does the board want to make an assumption, since the shed is very old, that it's older than we can ascertain, and we can go forward with the application, saying the basis is that the assumption is that it was there when it needed to be there?
And with a further addition that it is, make that removal of the shed is making the lot less non-conforming, which is
Right.
always.
Yes.
So I think that's reasonable.
So the condition,
Have to get it into a finding of facts somehow.
well, there is a condition that we would levy that a new shed doesn't appear on the lot. You'd be prohibited from putting a shed in place.
Well, they couldn't, because that would, once they've done the alterations and taken out that shed, a year from now, they cannot put another shed back there. It would make it more non-conforming.
Right.
What about the stuff that's in the shed?
What about the stuff that's in the shed?
Where's it
Who
gonna go?
knows what's in the shed?
Well, I think the owners know what's in the shed. Where's it gonna go?
Is there anything in the shed?
I'm asking.
I don't think we have any guidelines for that.
I would say that I don't believe it's within the board of the purview to determine where the contents of the shed are to
And what to do with them.
reside.
Right?
Only that we would require that the shed not be replaced in the future.
Yes.
I think you can make that condition.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we further make the condition that they don't come up with some other way to use some of the excess cubic feet that they still seem to have?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it should be limited to what they've asked for.
And say, hey, you're done with your 30%. You've done it twice on this property, no more.
Well,
I don't know how to say that officially, but
if I could just say that the thing with the volume, without any square footage, basically it'd be like putting some sort of dormer in, so you'd get more light into, the bedroom without creating any more square footage. Not that they're going to do that, but that, I think that's the only way you could even use the volume would be.
Well, I think if we're making an assumption that the shed goes back, you know, it was existing far enough back that it's grandfathered in, that will allow you some increase in the square footage and volume by using the shed. But that's it. There's
No,
gonna be no more.
I was mentally trying to figure out how do you use the volume.
Yes, I understand
Without square
that. I don't know how you would do it. Maybe a
Raise the roof.
skylight bubble or
Yeah.
something.
Okay. All right, I think, is everybody pretty much in agreement with that, that interpretation? Are we okay to state at this point that we feel that the application is complete and can go to a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay,
Did the application get updated?
yeah, that's a question. Do
Yes.
we need an updated application, I think. You have a lot more information. I don't think you've actually redone the application page.
No, I put it on the summary sheet. But I can fill out it's the same information, but I can fill it out.
Yeah, just fill it out for completeness. We'll view, it's virtually complete, which would be fine for scheduling a
Yeah.
public hearing on December 16th, I guess. So. How about a motion that it's complete?
Okay,
I'll
I
make
move
a motion.
that the
Second.
application is complete.
Okay. Second,
Okay. All right, so I'm going through, I'm in favor. Nina,
in favor.
Scott,
In favor?
Ed,
In favor?
Larry.
In favor?
Okay, super. And so John, next time is going to be a public hearing, but you're now pretty well aware of
Yes,
what we're doing, so.
yeah.
Good. All right. Well, that brings us to
Thank you.
Mr. Einstedler. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, and we need to bring in good old Steve Doe, probably. It's item number 201-004, Ivy Subdivision.
Yep.
Sebago Techniques, authorized agent. So if we could get our friend Steve Doe in and whoever else he feels is necessary.
And promoting Steve now.
Okay. I don't know if anybody's with him. He'll tell us. There he is.
Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, if Ralph Austin could also be brought forward, that'd be great.
All right.
Oh, there he is. Okay, so Steve, why don't you proceed?
Sure. So this project consists of the land owned by IB3 LLC, and they have a 7.8 acre parcel of land that's remaining that they have behind the old Ford Inn. And what they want to do is basically just split it into and sell it as 2 residential lots. Part of this also has some open space in it. If I can share my screen, I can go through the drawings that I have and kind of just walk you through the project.
Screen sharing is enabled.
All right, let me see if I can do that. All right. Can you see my screen now?
Starting.
Yeah, there we go.
There. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the subdivision plan. So they essentially own all of this that I've kind of outlined, even this piece here. So the first lot will be accessed off of, it's actually the former Kings Highway, which is over here. There's a street sign that says Perkins Way. The town actually calls it Colony Avenue, but Anyway, the access will be over here. There's a driveway that comes down and serves a house that's right here. So we'll utilize that driveway, come in and have a wetland crossing here and a driveway, and then come up to an area. This is probably where we're seeing the building lot being up in here. This would be the lot. Fairly odd shape, but there's kind of an odd shape left. So that's lot 1. Lot 2 will be over here, and this will be accessed by Endcliff Road, which is here, which I'll go over a little bit later on what we're doing there. And then this section right here is the open space. It's primarily just a wetland. The whole site drains in this direction. The water pools in here, which is why it's wet, and then it outlets down through here and goes out into tidal area. Let me go to, I'm just going to scroll through the other drawings, get to the sewer plan. So this drawing is going to show you how we're going to get utilities into these lots. So lot 1 and lot 2 will be connected to public sewer. Sewer currently is right here. There's a pumping station right here. So we will have 2 ejector pumps or 2 sewer manholes right here. So that lot 1 can gravity down to this point, and lot 2 can gravity all the way down to here, and then they will pump over to connect to the sewer. Lot 1, we can provide public water to. Public water is in South Main Street, so we'll extend a 2-inch water line down, I'm going to call it Colony Avenue, and then that will be a public water main, and then from there the service will come off and tie in to lot 1 where the building site is. Lot 2, we can't provide public water to because you have to have frontage on a water main. And there's no water main in the area of lot 2. And lot 2, we can't even get frontage on this main. So lot 2 will be served by a well. The lot's fairly large, so there's adequate places to get a well for that. So access for lot 2, as I talked about, will come off Endcliff. And what I'm going to go to now is a drawing for Chickadee Trust, which was a subdivision several years ago. Some of you may remember, which happened over on this side of the site, which we permitted. So this is, let me kind of back up. So this is where Endcliff is improved to now. Ocean Avenue is out here. This is Poets Lane, and Terrell Lynn broke off a lot down here. So part of her approval was to extend Endcliff Road to here with a hammerhead. Some of those improvements were made, but not to this design standard. They built the road. There's not really a turnaround. But that aside, our plan is to bring this section of Endcliff up to what it was designed for and continue down here, and then we get to our property over here. And I'll go to our drawing now. Oops. So down at the bottom, this is where Terrell Lynn's project was. We're just going to extend it a little further down, widening this so that it meets approval. We're going to provide a hammerhead turnaround right over here, which the fire chief had asked us to do. This will also service the driveway into the lot. In addition to that, we're going to continue Endcliff so it connects to the old Ford Inn. Right now, access to the old Ford Inn for fire purposes is to come down Dover Lane, and it's very difficult to get a fire truck around this turn here and then try to back them up and get them out. So this connection here provides added protection for the old Ford Inn and also to residents on Endcliff, so that the fire department has 2 means of access to get to Endcliff Road. One of the big concerns of people living on Endcliff is that this doesn't become a through street, or just anybody's gate. It could be a sawhorse, but we're thinking more of a swing gate that's closed to discourage people from driving through there. And this is private property too, so it's not really a road anyway. So part of the plan, as I said, will be upgrading this so that it serves for fire access. Also for any delivery truck that may be coming up here, they can turn around, get out of there. Let me just go through, see if there was anything else I need to chat about. The only other things is we had asked for some waiver requests, which all pretty much relate to the road standard. And these were similar ones that we had asked for when we did the extension of Endcliff for Terrell Inn. And they deal with primarily road widths, sidewalks, road length. And I can go into those details if you'd like me to. I guess at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board has.
Okay. My first question, who owns the open space?
That would be, I would say it'd have to be a homeowner's between the two lots, lots 1 and lot 2.
Okay. Good. It wasn't obvious to me because the rest of the Ivy subdivision isn't involved, so.
Yep. Actually, if I can kind of step back, let me go to, because there's another question that I had thought of too. So the way this is set up, you got lot 1, you got the open space in lot 2. What we didn't talk about is this section here. This is the Endcliff right away, and then this is a connection out to Central Avenue. This land here will be owned by lot 2, just for clarity. And another thing, we have this utility easement, which I talked about for sewer to get lot 2 out here to sewer an easement, so that somebody at lot 2 has a means to access out this way, instead of walking all the way down Endcliff, all the way around, if they want to get into lower, the village area. So they'd basically just be walking down the sewer easement. And we'll amend the plan to clarify that.
Okay. All right. My lot 1 questions relate to whatever you want to call it. Colony Ave / Perkins Way, et cetera. Okay, where exactly, if I walk down that road right now,
Yep.
the first bit of it is unpaved, and then suddenly it starts being paved. That's not, as far as I know, not in your drawings. But is that the start of the Perkins property where the pavement starts? Or what?
Well, this is South Main Street, and then Arlington. This is Spring Street, which is paved. And then this is Perkins Way.
Right. The first half of Perkins Way is a dirt
Yes.
road. The second half of Perkins Way is the Perkins driveway.
Okay, so
And
that
it's
must
paved.
occur right over here. This is their house. So I'm
Right.
going to say the pavement probably starts right here.
I see.
comes in.
Okay. If that's the case, your drawing is messed up in that case. Because as far as I'm concerned, that
Yep.
house that you're showing, the house, okay, their house is basically
Oh, it is.
5
Yeah,
feet.
that is
of the
correct.
road. So it ain't 25 feet.
No,
that you've
this is
shown
5
there.
feet. This is their house, this is the right of way.
That's the right of way, but their road is right on it. The whole Perkins Way runs along that right of way and goes straight back to Spring Street. So it is not up if I go up 25 feet up from that to the center of the 15-foot right, it's not, not a cleared right
Well,
of way.
this is survey located right here. This is all field survey located. We don't have any survey information here because we weren't going that far. But this is the existing tree line. This is what's happening over here. I don't know if that's,
And I don't believe that's the existing road. If you're saying that
Right here.
that tree line, no, I don't believe that for a minute. I've walked it too many times, very wrong with that picture.
So Tom, you thinking that a site walk might be in order?
I believe so. That's the only way I can possibly. It doesn't make sense to me.
Is there an aerial?
let me see if I can pull one up.
An aerial won't necessarily give you the survey lines.
No, it won't give us property lines.
No.
But just to get an idea.
Steve, who owns that right of way? It says it's a private way right now. Whose property is that?
It is a private way.
Who maintains it, for example, or pays taxes on it?
Am I in the right area? I'm not in the right spot. Okay, so here we go.
So Steve, if it's helpful, I mean, the town, the town GIS, while, I wouldn't use it necessarily for boundary lines, but it could be helpful because it's going to give a sense of what, of what you're looking at with an aerial.
Sure.
I have that available if folks want to see that.
Are you able to see my screen or not? I'm on the town's website, but
So I think we're still seeing your
Your-
drawing.
okay. All right. Well, it's not doing any good then.
If you can drag your browser over to the same screen where you have the map, we would be able to see it, I think.
Okay.
Unless you told it to share that map specifically.
It was just that map specifically. So. You say you have it up, Werner? Do you want to look at yours?
Yeah,
or-
I mean, if you want to unshare your screen, and I can
Here
do
we
a
go.
share. I can do a share. Yeah, so I think, what you're seeing here here's, whatever we would call this, Colony Avenue, Perkins. So it looks like you've got essentially like a cul-de-sac, that turns around, that looks like it's in a number of places. It looks like it cuts across part of Ivy's property, and then onto the Perkins property, and then back out into the right of way.
Yep, I see that now.
Certainly doesn't. I see what you're saying, but I certainly have walked it enough times to know that about half of that isn't there.
Yeah, and it looks, based on this, it looks like they've encroached onto this property, if that's correct. I think what we would probably have to do is just update our survey down in there, do a little
Yeah,
as-built.
I'd like to see what
Yep.
you know, where, you know, this kind of shows where the end of the pavement is, right?
Yeah.
And okay. Well, I have some other questions. I just think we need to figure it out, and I think Ed's suggestion of a site walk would be a really good thing.
That'll be the first time we try that with masks and all of that, so we need to give that some thought.
Yes, well, I
Well,
just got new KN95s with straps that don't impinge on my ears so that my hearing aids work.
I think it depends for what purpose, you know, you want to have your site walk. You know, if it's for the purpose of checking out the, you know, this particular entrance location, you know, maybe it's appropriate to just have it, you know, have the proposed driveway location staked out, and then
That would be good.
board
Yeah.
members could visit the site individually.
Well, that's a good idea.
That'd be a real good idea.
Like Tom, I walked up there yesterday with the purpose of trying to understand it. I totally missed the fact that it's the current driveway that we're talking about, and I was trying to somehow place it on top of this creek. So I came away thinking somebody's going to have to hold my hand when I look at this. But this has helped a lot.
Yeah.
But still, having walked a little ways up that driveway, and I didn't dare go further because I felt like I was on somebody's private property.
Yep.
Yeah, it does appear that way, yeah.
You know, and so yeah, maybe if it just could be flagged in some fashion, then that would help a lot.
Okay,
Just trying to visualize this, and probably the other end too. I didn't go that far, but
the other
Yeah,
end's a lot easier.
And the question was asked, and I'm not sure, I heard the answer.
People are complaining, also complaining that people are walking on their property when people
Right.
are walking up that road.
So,
you gotta-
so whose property is Colony Avenue / Kings Highway / Perkins Way? Who owns that? Or is
I
that just
need,
lost in antiquity.
well, no, it was part of a division. I'm not sure who owns, I'd have to dig into that, but I know that.
Took it back
was
to the
part of-
railway company?
No, well, it's in the alignment of the original railway subdivision, and then it was abandoned, and then it was recreated. It's kind of a weird, I don't know if Ralph remembers back when we tried to do a subdivision on this land.
well, for our purposes, we'll be interested in what rights does this property have to use it? And if that's clear in the deed, then maybe some of the history doesn't matter as much.
Yeah,
We'll dig into that and we can come back with that information.
yeah.
Okay,
Warner, would that be in the road book?
In the what?
The road book? Kennebunkport has a road book that lists all the roads and history
Yeah.
behind them.
Yeah, no, that's it's a great question. I did spend a little bit of time, you know, with the road book on this, you know, on this particular one. What it doesn't necessarily do, and you know, and you know, because Steve and I were trying to work through some of the, you know, I think some of the back history of this, you know, this road, was the records that we have aren't necessarily clear about, all right, so here's where the public portion of this, you know, here's the publicly accepted portion of, you know, Old Kings Highway, now known as Colony Avenue, where that stops, and, you know, what was described back, you know, back when, you know, the selectmen would have originally accepted it. I don't know that I have a description of, I don't necessarily have a separation between here's the public section and here's the private section, you know, not without, you know, going through the entire legal description in the road book and, you know, survey recreating it. And, you know, I've got it's got a lot of meets and bounds to it. And, you know, as you can imagine from a description that's very old, there's just a lot of references to a lot of folks that, you know, are long gone. So, you know,
Well, the Kings Highway goes back, I think, before the Revolutionary War and runs all the way along the coast right up through Biddeford.
That's correct.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So in a lot of ways, even those descriptions pick up other segments of the road that, that we don't even necessarily recognize as King's Highway anymore.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, I mean, I think what we've looked at, on this, this section of road shows up, in a number of older subdivision plans. It's been subject to numerous subdivisions by the Seashore Development Company over the years, so it's shown up, I'm guessing probably at least a half a dozen different subdivision plans. This road, or this right of way shows up.
Okay, I had one little other question on lot 1, where this road we've been talking about, it intersects Spring Valley. It does not intersect South Main. So Spring Valley is presumably private road. Is there some private road issues have to get sorted out between the owners of both the Perkins and the owners of the new lot in terms of supporting the road where it's starting to fall apart right at the merger of Spring Valley with South Main? Did anybody understand my question? I guess not.
Yes.
Not entirely, Tom.
Okay. Well, Spring Valley is a private road going up that hill. This road intersects Spring Valley, does not intersect South Main.
So that's not what's shown in the abutters map that's included in the package. It shows it being directly across from South Main. And
Let me go to-
no, I'm saying directly orthogonal to South Main and Arlington. It shows it as a four-way
Not
intersection.
that. That's why you were looking for it down in the creek.
It's farther up.
It's farther up the road.
You're saying this abutters map is wrong.
You want me to share my screen again? I can look at
Yes,
the.
please. Yes, please. I'm sorry.
right.
And you're right,
So,
Tom, that is why I was looking for it at the creek.
so here is South Main Street's right away. Comes here, and then you have Arlington coming up. So this Spring Valley is right here.
You're saying it's got three streets coming together there, not two.
Yeah, you
well,
got
But the reality is, if you look at that corner of South Main Street and Spring Valley, right there where you just had the hand,
Yeah.
where the right-of-way is, that's up a hillside. There is no roadway there.
This is Spring Valley right
That's the
here.
old
That's their
Goldsmith
right
house.
away.
Yep.
the other,
But just because it's a right-of-way there, the
as far as I
topography
know,
doesn't allow for it.
Okay.
sign-wise, I thought that what you have labeled Arlington Ave was actually part of South Main, but it's probably Arlington, you're right.
Yeah, it kind of,
Changes its name.
it kind of takes this whole corner is the public right of way, this whole corner. Spring Valley, I believe, takes off and goes up the hill here. This is the contour lines of the grades going uphill.
Okay. All right. Well, the town needs to fix it then. Okay, not a problem. I have a question on lot 2. When Carolyn Swift came to the board a number of times, most recently on December 7th, 17, to our board, where she asked to change change what had been on the plan as a circle at the end of cul-de-sac at the end of the road. They to change it to, and we got the fire chief to agree to make it into a excuse me, the hammerhead. And what you're telling me now is that from the approval of that on December of 2017 to when that lot was sold to the Buxtons on 5/6/19, she didn't do what she asked, what she proposed to do in the the bid in front of the plan in front of the planning board. So is there any enforcement? What do we have for that? Is Terrell and Swift's crowd going to pay for this repaving of the road, or what's going on? I'm at a loss to know what it is we approve when they don't actually have to do it.
Well, it creates, it creates a potential difficulty when it comes time to obtain a building permit. If the improvements, haven't been done according to what the board approved.
So what happened? There's a house now there
There's-
on that
Nope,
lot.
this lot hasn't been built on.
It's vacant.
It's a
Yeah.
vacant lot.
Yeah, they came in here, they kind of roughed in this road, they roughed in this, they cleared all this, and then that's where it's been left.
And I mean, the applicant's proposal now is to complete the work that should have been done, but it'll be at the applicant's expense, not anyone else's.
And we won't be doing,
Guys,
this turnaround here, we're gonna move it down. We're just gonna build this section of road all the way and do the turnaround down here.
Okay. And I presume you will be working with the End Cliff HOA or RM road maintenance folks to get approvals of what needs to be done.
Yes,
Well, if I could just interject on that, I mean, the board approved the Swift application, I guess twice originally, then an amendment, required certain improvements to be made to Incliff Road. No approvals, I mean, the Ivy property has the right to access its property across Incliff Road. So I'm not sure what approvals from other lot owners are needed. We're not trying to assess other lot owners for the cost.
Yeah, good.
Please,
No,
the lots that-
we've already gotten letters from the other lot owners that they want to know what the heck's going on,
Yeah,
so.
understood, and they certainly should know what's going on, but, and particularly the lots that Terrell and Swift owned and sold, both of those lots were conveyed subject to the approval of the planning board, so it shouldn't be a surprise that there were improvements that needed to be made. But having said that, we definitely want to consult with and work with the other owners on Incliff.
Okay, good. Well, I think I'm out of questions. So, Nina, do you have questions?
No, I don't have questions right now, but I would like a site walk. I would like to see the wetlands, at least a little bit of those wetlands. Where you're planning to go by and put in a sewer line and everything.
Okay, Scott, anything?
Well, not right now, but I will be wondering about the requested waivers for the road.
Well, they're in the package.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to give a point of clarification, because I know we just had a conversation about waivers, on a previous application.
There you go.
So now, when it comes to subdivisions, okay? So when it comes to subdivisions, the planning board, governs performance standards that are located within the subdivision regulations. And so that is a document that you all manage, that you all, have authority to create, make modifications to. So for those performance standards, since it's your document that you have, that you have authority and you have authority within that document to modify the standards and within that to grant performance standard requests. It's different than dealing with when we're looking at a site plan solely through the land use ordinance, but so this one here, you want to grab the other book and look at the subdivision regulations whenever you're dealing with performance standards.
Thank,
All right, how about Ed?
I do have a couple of general questions. One, the first is, this is, the cover sheet says this is a major revision to a previously approved subdivision application.
Correct.
Could you say something about what the major changes are from the last time? In other words, is it the same two lots, for example?
Well, the previous plan, which I think I included in your booklet, I may be able to pull.
You did it, and I really appreciated that, but I'll tell you, this is an eye chart. As you, I envisioned myself, if I was doing this
All
work,
right.
like 10 layers.
Oh,
Maybe move them in and
Yeah.
out. This is hard.
This is a difficult site. I've dealt with this land for a long time. Back in '86, we started on this property.
But let me just give you some context. As I read the old one, which I appreciated having there, I say, okay, these were the conditions that were levied in the findings of fact. I wonder which of those still make sense or maybe don't make sense, because is lot one still lot one? Is lot two still lot two?
Understood.
This
Yep,
type of
okay.
thing. No.
I understand now. Yeah, because the original property included this land right here. That actually came all the way down to here. So that was the lot that was broken off previous.
That had a home on it already?
No, a new home's been built on it, like right over here. Access was for Dover Lane. We did another turnaround over here, and they just broke off this one lot. So that was the previous
Lot one
approval,
before?
I should say. It may have been
Was
called Lot 1. And I'll have
Steve,
to-
yeah, and I'm just, now that Ed's brought that up, maybe we consider renaming the lots we're doing now,
Yep.
because there was a lot 1 and a lot 2 on the original plan.
Yep,
Now what we're doing is splitting lot 2.
Yeah.
And having a lot 1 might get confusing.
nope, I
You-
agree.
You got right to the point, Ralph. Thank you. That's
So it could be 2A and 2B, I guess, or something.
Yeah, yeah.
anyway,
Or not
something
to be.
that helps us discuss if there's a difference in what applies, what doesn't apply. Thank you.
Nope, understood.
All right, Larry,
That's all. A couple more, Tom. That was one, and that was helpful. Thank you.
you said you had a, oh, I'm sorry.
The second of three things I'm going to ask. The second one is, which version of the subdivision regs are we using here? And Tom, maybe this is one for you. We just had a town vote and we approved a new version of the subdivision regs in the codification. I still don't have a copy of it. It seems to me we ought to be working to that. Fair?
I believe it was equivalent to our last mod of the, yeah, we should be, but I mean.
I stand by my point. I don't have a copy of it. I have
Yeah,
some deltas
very
that I submitted, and so can we just clarify that, Tom?
Yeah, well, Werner,
Sure, I can speak to that. You know, we, you know, you're correct, that, you know, the town approved, you know, the overall codification of all of the town's, ordinances. I can tell you that those documents just came in, I believe, 2 days ago from the printer. And so they're a fresh kind of off the press, document. You know, I think for our purposes, I think, Tom made the correct point that, the document, for the purposes of this application, we're looking at the subdivision regs that you all most recently approved.
Yes.
Because that language didn't change. you know,
Right.
So the codification didn't change any of the language. It
No,
just,
no, I just thought that would be an easy way to get at it, but our input into the codification, it would be useful if we had a copy of that.
yeah, no, I understand that. And right now it's a practical issue
Yeah.
of getting, again, some of the hard copies just showed up the other day from the printer. And we'll be getting, that onto the website as well shortly. I mean,
So the only reason I'm bringing this up, not just to be a jerk, but to to say that the thing we spent a little energy on was this whole private road business. And this goes to the third point I'm trying to make. There's Enfield, Endcliff rather, and then there's Perkins or Colony Way, Colony Avenue. That process that we put together that said, hey, we're going to ask the applicant, are these ever going to be private, or are they ever going to be requested to be public? And what was the process we were going to go through just to make that all clear was spelled out. And I wanted to follow that here.
And it certainly would be helpful to us to have that.
The language.
Right.
And who in the town was gonna weigh in on it.
Yep. Yeah. And those, and I know that, that those, that site, is going to be, it's going to be up, fairly quickly. But again, we just received the, the final paper versions of, of the codified, the codified code.
If I recall,
Yep.
again, just to cut to the chase, the gist of it is, we're going to ask applicants, we inform applicants that getting things to be public roads is a process that is not under the purview of the planning board. However, it is a forum in which we're going to ask for information about the roads and the criteria they make. And if in fact there is a desire to sometime in the future make them public, we can initiate that process here by asking the town, the right people in the town to review the data and to weigh in on it and all of that. But is that fair, Tom? Is that kind of the gist of what we added?
Yeah, that's kind of it. I mean,
Sure. And I think part of that process also just included, asking the applicant whenever they came before the board, what the intent of the road was. Was it the intent of the applicant to ask the town, did they foresee, asking the town in the future of whether or not the road was going to be taken over, or whether or not there was going to be a request made.
Right.
the last approved site, the last approved plan we had was the Heritage Trust, and we asked them that question overtly.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's right.
And I don't think that's any different, that's any different here.
So to ask that question here, it looks like both of these roads, the intent right now is that they would stay private. Fair?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Larry?
Okay, thank you. Well, I just wanted to say that after I read the application, I had a hard time understanding the 11 by 17 drawings. So then I looked at the full-size drawings, and I still had a difficult time figuring out what exists and what's proposed to be added. So could you add some color coding, maybe like some red lines on what you're proposing to be added from what already exists? Because I mean, I had a hard time even figuring out the boundary lines for lot 1 and lot 2.
Yep. No, that
So
makes
that-
good sense.
That would help. And then I really am looking forward to the sidewalk because for all of the roads involved in this, to be honest, because I also have walked out there and I can't figure out what is what. So, so anyway, looking forward to the sidewalk. Thank you.
Nope, that's a good idea.
Could I add to that you might give us two maps, one with the original lots on it and show what was open space, and then one with the two new lots with a different color maybe, and show what's open space there? You can do red and green for the holidays if you want.
When you say what was left for open space, I'm not on the previous plan. I'm
Yeah,
not following you what you meant.
was there open space in the previous plan?
No, nope.
No,
There was just a reserved lot.
Yeah,
it was just a reserved lot. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
lot-
what I thought.
Yeah, lot
But-
2 is to remain undeveloped until coming before the board, basically.
Well, okay, well, I agree that some color coding here, just very simple, would be very helpful in trying to determine where things are.
nope,
Yeah.
understood.
Okay, George?
No, sorry. No, not at this time.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay, so I think we're through the board. If anybody else has any questions. So I think we gave Steve a lot of stuff to go work on, so.
A little bit.
Ration, yep.
We always do that.
So as far as the site walk, I guess, do I get things labeled, and flagged up, and then let Werner know that it's been done? Or how do you want to, or are you going to walk the land on your own, I guess?
Well, I think some labeling would be helpful, in terms of, flagging of the property boundaries. So that the board would know, here's where the property corners are, here's where the edge of the edge of the right of way is. And then I think the proposed driveway location, I think, is what, at least what I heard is, would be helpful.
But that's for lot one.
Correct.
And Nina also mentioned she wanted to see the wetlands situation where those were, if possible, on a walk. And I think walking the end of End Cliff up to the back of the old fort would be a good thing to do, so we can figure it all out.
I think knowing the site, it is a very difficult site to try to walk on your own if you haven't been on it. Even if with things flagged up, I think you could get confused. So I think it'd be best to have me as a guide just to walk you through it because I've walked it long enough, but, so.
We can, so bear with me as I just kind of talk this through a little bit. We can certainly set up sometimes for a site walk for the board. Just remember keeping in mind that, if we have 3 of you, we notice that as a public meeting. Just given the COVID situation, I think we want to limit the size of groups for sure. But that's a little bit tricky whenever you have a public meeting, and where, especially where we're making attempts to not have, large gatherings in public. I'd entertain some ideas in terms of how that, of how this, this might work. We could certainly just do, we could set up a schedule and have 2 of you at a time with, do a walk with Steve.
Yep.
That way we're not, it places an additional burden on him, for setting that up, but.
That's fine.
But, we could set up a schedule with, with time slots for, 2 board members at a time, if that works.
I think that makes sense.
I, for one, would be content if, if Nina and Larry went, for example, and then, it started to shine some more light on it. I don't know that we all have to go. I don't know that I have to go.
I tend to agree. Some flags along Perkins Way would be a nice thing to figure out what's going on. In terms of having 2 people, I think the suggestion of Nina and Larry is a good one in terms of the.
Okay, sure.
We send our civil engineer and our lawyer, it's kind of.
Right.
Our wetlands.
Dean,
Why do I think I probably need boots and a hiking stick now?
Well, I would say you probably do. You can ask Steve, but
You wait long enough for snowshoes.
yes.
And tick spray.
oh, yeah.
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 All right. Well,
Yep.
so
So what I'm hearing, at least, just to kind of recap, it sounds like the board is wanting to appoint 2 members of the board to do the site walk, and we can set that time up with Steve. Is that what I'm hearing from
you're
folks?
hearing that. Well, you
Yes.
heard our first 2 nominees. If one of them can't
If it
make it,
wasn't willing.
somebody else can. That's
Well,
I thought you were gonna say if we lost one of them along the way.
Oh, yeah, well,
Hey, well,
no,
we can't lose our lawyer and our civil engineer. I mean, give me a break.
no, I'm just trying to, I've got the notice thing in my head. So I'm just trying to see whether or not, if it's just 2 board members with Steve, then, I mean, obviously, that's not a meeting of the board. Although technically I think in our regs, we're to be noticing site walks. I just, given this, the situation that we have with COVID, I know we're not supposed to be encouraging, large scale gatherings. So.
Well, the problem is if it's not a site walk and the public knows that 2 board members are going and the public shows up, what do you have then? You might be better off doing 3 board members and at least make it a board, something that's noticed.
Yeah, I prefer having something that's noticed, just, for process. But
I have no objection. Again, I don't think we all have to go. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, I 3, if we have to be 3 is a good number, and it can be me
I
or
think
Ed, or, anybody else would be the 3rd. would be
There's nothing that prevents us from noticing it and only sending 2 people. All right?
Yeah. Sure, there you
Right.
go.
Yep. Yep.
You really don't want to go, do you, Ed?
Oh, I'd like to keep it small. I'm very sensitive to the COVID thing, honestly.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm itching to get out of the
And
house.
if Warner were willing to go, that would be great, Now
And
now
I'm
we got
terrified of
that
text.
expertise in the code enforcement office. So, but
Yep.
keep it small.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we can
Oh,
work.
okay.
We can work
So are
on.
we-
We'll propose some times and just circulate those and get that scheduled up.
Take your phone along. Maybe you can make it into a Zoom meeting.
But I don't want to forget Tom's point about if in addition or in conjunction with this, flagging the driveway entrances would be, I will go up there on my own. I already have, and it's on our walk anyway. So
Yep, I can do that.
thank you.
Okay,
So the next steps are Werner is going to notice this and then also propose dates when we can go over there. Is that the idea?
Sure.
Which will be after the flags are put out? Is that the idea? So there's a bit of coordination here?
Well, what I would suggest is that, one, we need to determine a date, because, we can't send a notice out if we don't have a date.
Yeah.
A date and a time. So, we'll, we can coordinate what that is so that we can then put together the notice that can be sent out and publicized for when, the date and the time is going to be. However, in the meantime, I think it's appropriate to ask for the flagging and everything to be done ahead of time. Because we have to give some time to the notice, one, just to, to figure the schedule out, and then 2, to be able to mail the notice out to folks, and give adequate time for receipt.
How many days in advance of the site walk do you have to give the notice? 7 days, 10 days?
That's a good question.
Every 2 weeks.
I don't have the whole thing memorized. I mean, I think we would notice this, up just like we do with any other, meeting.
Well, okay, I guess it's gonna be at least 10 days or something. So, I'm looking at my calendar here. It's pretty open, 24th and 25th are sort of X'd out, but the rest of it's kind of open.
I can do the 25th.
For
Nice.
It's a month away, guys,
Yeah,
right?
for a publishing of an agenda, we're required to do that at least a week in advance for the
Okay, all right.
publishing of agenda.
Okay. All right, so,
So, anyway, I have one more thing that has to be done, which is
so,
to,
so hang on. So Stephen is gonna go stake everything and Werner's gonna publish a notice. And so you want to agree on a tentative walk date of like the 15th?
Well, let me get it staked out first. That's gonna be, let me talk with my,
through Lisa, once he
Yeah.
has it staked out.
Okay, all righty. Okay, so we'll wait, so
Notice.
Stephen will stake it and then Werner will advise when, well, make requests for when we want to schedule a date, then he'll publish it, then we'll go. Okay,
There you go.
We got it. Yep.
got it. Thank you.
Okay, so are we saying that this application for this preliminary application, subdivision application is complete and may go to a public hearing next, on the 16th then?
Yes, although one piece of missing information, perhaps, I didn't see an authorization letter in the package
Yeah.
saying that Sebago Technics was authorized to represent,
Ivy.
LLC.
Isn't this a continuation though, if it's a major revision?
I would think we should have I thought I had one. If not, I can get one.
I didn't
Why
see,
don't you do one just so that we're sure
Yeah.
about it?
I don't have any problem with saying yay to Tom's proposal. I think it is complete, but if you could make sure that's in there, that would be great.
Yep. No, it should be in there. We should have one. I would agree.
Okay, so if I may have a motion.
So I move that the application be accepted as complete.
I'll second.
Okay, so I'm in favor. Nina,
In favor.
Scott,
In favor.
Ed,
In favor?
Larry.
In favor?
Okay. So that's it until the 16th, I guess. If I need one more motion.
One thing I just want to note, I did see that we had some folks, members of the public who had their hands raised. I don't think it was mentioned at the beginning of this meeting that because this was an initial review that, that we don't take comments from the public at an initial review, but any comments or questions can be brought up whenever we have a noticed public hearing.
Right.
Just
Which would
wanted
be
to
the
make-
next.
wanted to
in
make sure we mentioned
addition,
that.
People can send letters to Lisa and you, and they'll be distributed to us.
That's correct. Yep. And again, just as a reminder to folks, if they have, those types of questions or comments, we want to have those 7 days prior to the next meeting.
Right, so by the 9th, if they can just send
Correct.
something to Werner and Lisa, then code
I think
enforcement.
I did see that the ones that, the letters that were received and that were forwarded to the planning board also went to the applicant.
Yes,
That's our typical process.
I know that, but I wanted the participants to hear that.
Yep. Yeah. Any letters or emails that come into the code office, are passed along to all the planning board members as well as are also shared with the applicant.
We should also, in a situation like this, let the public know in an initial review that they can't ask questions, maybe just quickly in the beginning.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me because it was totally initial reviews this time, so I didn't overtly mention it, that there would be no public input, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
All right. Now, I will take a motion.
A motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
Hey, fine, why don't we just, everybody in favor, just say thumbs up
Show
or
of hands.
something, or all.
Thumbs up, yeah.
Okay. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.